Level 1, the kid at the fence. You are 9 years old and you are standing at the chain link fence at the edge of the regional airport, fingers curled through the metal, watching a small propeller plane lift off the runway and bank slowly toward the horizon. You come here most Saturdays with your father, who doesn't fly himself but understands, without ever quite saying it out loud, that you need to watch this the way some kids need to watch a specific team play. You build model airplanes in your room, dozens of them hanging from fishing line off the ceiling, each one a little more accurate than the last as you get better with your hands. You memorize the names of aircraft the way other kids memorize sports statistics. Your first flight, a short hop in a puddle jumper to visit relatives, rearranges something in you permanently. Not the takeoff exactly, but the specific moment the ground drops away and the world becomes something you're moving through instead of standing on. Level 2, the student pilot. You are 17 and you've spent an entire summer's worth of lawn mowing money on your first introductory flight lesson, sitting in the left seat of a small trainer aircraft with an instructor beside you who lets you take the controls for exactly 4 minutes before your hands start shaking from concentration. It is nothing like the model planes. The airplane fights back constantly, correcting for wind and your own overcorrections in a conversation you don't yet know how to have. You solo for the first time at 19, the specific terror of watching your instructor climb out of the plane and walk away, leaving you alone with an aircraft for the first time in your life. The 3 takeoffs and landings you complete afterward are, without question, the longest 12 minutes you have ever experienced. You taxi back to the ramp shaking, and your instructor cuts your shirt tail off as tradition demands, pinning it to a wall already covered in the shirt tails of 100 other students who felt exactly what you're feeling right now. Level 3, the commercial trainee. You are 22 and you've committed to this fully now, grinding through commercial licenses and instrument ratings in a training program that eats every spare hour and most of your savings. Instrument flying rewires something in your brain, learning to trust 6 small gauges completely over what your own body is telling you, because in clouds with zero visibility, your inner ear will lie to you with total, dangerous confidence. You build flight hours the unglamorous way most young pilots do, towing banners over beaches, flying skydivers up and back down all day, teaching nervous students the same lessons your own instructor once taught you. The hours accumulate slowly, each one a small deposit toward a career that still feels most days more like a stubborn hope than an actual plan. Level 4, the regional first officer. You are 27 when a regional airline finally hires you, and you sit in the right seat of a commercial jet for the first time, technically qualified and completely aware of how much you still don't know. Your first captain is patient in the specific way that older pilots are with people they remember being themselves. Your first real emergency, a minor hydraulic issue handled entirely by the book, teaches you more in 11 minutes than an entire semester of training did. The lifestyle reshapes everything. You live out of a rolling suitcase for days at a time, sleeping in a different city most nights, developing the specific exhaustion that comes from a job requiring total alertness on a schedule that actively fights your body's need for rhythm. You start to understand slowly why the older pilots at the crew lounge talk about this job the way people talk about something they love and resent in equal measure. Level 5, the captain. You are 34 when you're upgraded to captain, moving to the left seat with a responsibility that settles differently than anything before it. Every decision on that flight deck now carries your name first. Your first flight as captain, you find yourself checking and rechecking things a veteran captain would glance at once, aware that the first officer beside you is watching exactly the way you once watched. You handle your first genuine emergency in command, an engine indication that turns out to be a sensor fault. But for the 90 seconds before you know that, your training runs the checklist while a much quieter part of your mind runs through every worst-case scenario simultaneously. You land the aircraft without incident. You sit in the cockpit for a full minute afterward before unbuckling, hands slightly less steady than you'd like them to be. Level 6, the senior captain. You are 48 and you've flown enough hours now that the fear has been replaced by something quieter and more useful, a deep earned familiarity with exactly how much margin exists in any given situation and exactly when that margin starts to disappear. You fly wide-body aircraft internationally now, routes that cross oceans and time zones, landing in cities you've watched sunrise and sunset in more times than you can accurately count. You start mentoring young first officers, recognizing in their careful, slightly too formal radio calls the exact nervousness you carried at 27. You've developed the specific instinct senior captains have for the difference between a normal deviation and the first quiet sign of something actually wrong, a sense that took 2 decades decades of 10,000 ordinary flights to build and cannot be taught directly, only demonstrated repeatedly until it transfers. Level 7, the retired captain. You are 65, mandatory retirement age arriving exactly as the regulation says it must, and your final flight is treated by your airline with a small ceremony you didn't expect to be moved by. A water cannon salute on the taxiway, your entire crew and half the gate agents who know your face gathered to watch you taxi in for the last time as a commercial captain. You still fly. A small aircraft now, the kind you learned in decades ago, taking it up on clear afternoons for no reason except the reason that was always the actual reason, underneath the career and the licenses and the 30 years of paychecks. You take your grandson to the fence at the edge of the regional airport one Saturday, his fingers curling through the same chain link, watching a small propeller plane lift off and bank slowly toward the horizon. He asks if it's scary. You tell him the truth, that the fear never fully disappears. It just becomes something you've learned to fly alongside, instead of something that stops you from taking off in the first place. He doesn't fully understand yet. You didn't either. At 9, standing at a fence exactly like this one.